spectacular night of live streaming and awesome magic, as they call it.
Hi.
I already see you in there, man. What's going on, Sonny? Yeah, we're working on shit right now. Just give me a second. I'm gonna get everything situated. But we are here. You see, like that's why sometimes it takes me so long to get live. It's because 90% of it is just me making the title, switching the title to every platform, doing a bunch of different annoying things that take time. You know what I mean?
Rodrix has successfully joined the channel.
All right, so yeah, that started for vertical. Everything started over here. I'm going to start up Tickfinity. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that. What am I going to do now? I'm going to go to your playlist that you made, and I'm going to put that in the link of the broadcast on OBS. So what I was thinking is, as I'll use yours as like a nice frame of reference, we'll watch the first couple of videos, and then maybe we'll switch over to something a little scarier. By the way, what games... I just seen this message. By the way, what games do you have? Oh my god, you didn't even... Like, that list. Thousands of games. Too many to list. Let me go up. Okay, here's that playlist that you sent me here. Copy. Now let's also close Discord, because Discord makes a lot of noise. I'm sure you know. Let me move this. Order. Move down. Order. Move down. Order. Move down. Order. Move down. Order.
You will watch the first episodes of BFDI.
All right. Oh, back here, actually. Tools. This is the website.
You will see why I love it.
Hey, dude. Night, man. I love you. Let's go into here. All right. The worst product for $700. I think this is what you were talking about over here. I think this is what you're talking about. I'll watch this for you.
Yes.
Oh. Oh no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to break OBS.
To one in the whole world for you.
Oh my god.
Reminders of him. Rated PG-13. Get tickets now.
Man, I hate
Man,
that.
yeah, me too.
I'm so surprised. Really? Oh, for sure. I mean, it wasn't very big. Just a little
Okay.
But Flower went crazy. OMG, Flower is really afraid of bugs. Well, yeah. Flower thinks she's so fabulous. Like the time she asked Icy if she was beautiful. Ice Cube, don't you think I look beautiful?
Oh, no. Oh, I remember that. I am so gonna get revenge.
This is like some early YouTube type stuff.
When they were 10, so accept it.
Nah, I'm accepting it for what it is. I'm totally accepting this for what it is. No criticism. Any animation uploaded to the internet can't be criticized, because the amount of time that they probably took on doing this, even though it might be like anemic by even what you could achieve by today's standards, it's like you still gotta respect the work that they put in for the time of what this is, you know. After this, I think I'm gonna pick a nice Tecmo video.
I'll get Needle. Yours? What was that for? Hey, I'm just in the mood.
I was gonna say I could believe the creators made this when they were 10 just by the voices, you know.
Woody, get up. There's a life out there to enjoy, so enjoy it. Teardrop, calm down. Kicking Woody could severely injure him. He is balsa.
I have a few more videos like the video music shits and hate review in there.
Yeah. I don't even entirely hate that review. I just don't like the... I have problems with it. You know what I mean? I just wish he gave it a better shot. And later on, I don't know if you like conspiratorial stuff, but I was thinking about putting on like some conspiracy videos and stuff later on after we get some of that Tecmo and stuff out of the way. So we're starting off simple.
I hate it.
I hate it. Yeah, me too. I really don't like it that much either. It pisses me off. But friggin', once we get past some of the Tecmo videos too, I'll put on some cool, interesting videos about like some real life stuff, Reddit stories, things like that. This is actually one of my favorite segments, and I'm happy that you wanted me to do this, the YouTube streams, because they're a little bit more personal. Like when I'm doing the server stream, I have to focus some energy onto that, whereas this is direct. No typing in the controller, you know. This is just a direct communication to stream situation.
Have you seen Visual Venture their videos, P?
I've never seen Visual Venture. No. Sounds cool though. I may put on like some liminal space stuff. Trust me, I think anything that I think what I'm put on you would find very interesting, because I know you like a lot of old stuff. So I think you would screw with a lot of the. I watch crazy shit on YouTube.
I do anything to get away from her.
Yeah, I could tell this is like some earlier kind of Flash animation. Pretty impressive for probably not having a massive budget and just being done by, like you said, basically children, I guess. That's cool. That's a TV, I think, an old or a radio. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to be.
A 5-star hotel, a casino, 6 restaurants, robot servants, and the winner even gets to decide who gets to come in and who doesn't.
So, how much?
A subwoofer, basically.
Not even a penny.
Then I'll...
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
actually, yeah.
Everybody
I was like, what is this? I was looking at like an old TV for a second because the screen. That resembles like porthole televisions of like the 1940s and such.
So yes. Whoever stays on the bar the longest wins.
Let's help each other.
Yeah! Blocky, wake up! What are you doing? Out of my
I hate the
face,
flower
I need
character.
my space.
Help
Yeah, for pushing everyone off. That's no cool.
Thanks. Let's form an alliance.
That's no cool.
That would do no harm.
Okay.
Let's do it.
It's no cool.
What? An alliance? I've got to join. Coming through. Sorry, man. Hey guys, can I be part?
No. Blocky, come on, wake up. Oops.
Snatch. Coiny, don't ever.
My favorite is the fire one.
Yeah.
The fire one?
The flower. She's
Hell
still
yeah.
in.
Let's run her over.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Hey, we're flying.
You're right.
Woohoo! Uh-oh. Pull up.
I can't. Oh no. Rocky, help.
What is it?
You were stepping on me.
Better?
Yes. Now pull us up.
Whoa.
Teardrop, pull into my
Oh
other
shit!
arm.
I'd say the only thing that is a little annoying is the
Idiot
voice
Block
acting.
thinks that's a bad idea, and there's a second part.
Yeah.
Snatch.
Nice going, Pin. A job well done.
Teardrop, let's swing. Yay!
Pin, alliance, remember?
Oh yeah.
Leafy, you're stepping on me.
What? Oops.
Flower is the popular girls in school in a nutshell.
Yeah! Rock, paper, scissors. Scissors beats paper. I get to push you off.
Wait, hold on a sec. We didn't agree to that.
Look, when I win the island, I'll let you onto the island.
Pin, this still isn't fair.
Only one of us can win. Pin, wrong finger. Whoops, haha. Anyway, still, only one of us can win.
That's where you're wrong. The two of you both win.
Wait, we
Battle
both
for
get the
Epstein Island.
Nope. You just get to choose the teams. The teams for a much larger,
That's
longer
comedy,
haul to
bro.
win Dream Island.
That's straight comedy, dog.
Alright, it's not that bad.
If you're living with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis or active psoriatic arthritis, symptoms can sometimes hold you back. But now, there's Skyrizi, so you can be all in with clearer skin.
Stiff.
With Skyrizi, you can show up with dramatically clearer skin. And if you have psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi can help you move with less.
Bro, Skyrizi, who wants to fucking know about Skyrizi? That's some bullshit. You're right, bro, my bees. Yeah, I'm probably gonna turn on one of those, we'll watch this intermittently after one of them. I kind of want to see one of these videos, because they honestly, you piqued my interest with some of them. So let's see, videos on vinyl. I think I've seen that before, but not in a long time. Auto reverse the hard way. Oh, what? Spindling it yourself? Should we start from the top? I mean, we might as well.
All right, so this
With Marcus
is
Brownlee?
the Humane AI pin. It is a brand new
Yay.
product and a really,
Might as well
really
start at the top,
interesting
right?
form factor of an ultra futuristic wearable computer.
I think I remember when
in
this
a
was a
time with all
massive
these
controversy.
crazy gadgets and Vision Pro and wearable glasses.
This
it's so
guy's
sick
really
that we
smart.
get
This guy,
so many
Marcus Brownlee,
genuinely new
he's been doing
first-generation
YouTube for a
products like this
minute,
to
maybe
give
like a
shot.
decade plus.
Unfortunately, it's
His
also
videos are very high
the
quality.
new
His opinion
worst
is
product
solid.
I think
He
I've
has
ever
nothing to
reviewed.
review.
It's in its
Nothing
current
to
state.
review.
There's just so many things bad about it. It's so bad, in fact, that I think it's actually kind of distracting
this
to like
product.
understand what the point of the device is as we go through it.
Well,
So
what
I'm
is
gonna
it?
Separate it out for this video. First, I'm going to tell you what it is and what it's supposed to do, and then I'll tell you what my experience has actually been using it.
It's a good question. What is it?
So this thing is a small wearable computer with an AI inside that can help you throughout your day. It's about the size of a large watch. It has a camera and a microphone and can interact with the world around
Oh,
you.
shit.
But in case you can't use that as input, there's also a touchpad and a projector inside with this super new style of gesture control with the projection on your hand. It costs $700 plus a $24
He feels
a
too
month
corporate to me,
subscription plan
or is it
for
just
the
me?
data that comes with it and all the
Yeah.
services and all the
$24
online storage.
monthly
But,
subscription
yeah,
fee with $700 is insane.
plus a subscription.
Should be free.
It's already a fun start.
Should be a
one of the
free
big things off the
service.
top
If you're buying
is
the device,
this
should be
does not
included.
pair to your smartphone at all. This is its own standalone device with its own internet connection, with its own
Okay.
phone number.
Phone
And
number. So it's
this
a
little
phone?
AI assistant, it just goes everywhere with you. It's always connected, and you can choose how much or how little to use it alongside your smartphone. So, on its face, maybe that's kind of a cool idea, at least. Like, the idea is you talk to it like a person. It answers questions. It gives you historical facts or personalized recommendations, or helps you out with things like brainstorming or remembering things. It can make phone calls and send text messages. A ton of stuff.
Okay.
The unfortunate reality, though, is this thing is too much of a pain
So
to
is it
use
like
to
a
actually want
phone
to do
that's not a
most of that
phone
stuff
That's driven
alongside
by
your
an
phone,
AI
but
assistant that you wear on your chest?
We'll get there.
Oh, these ads.
I just
Here, I'm on it
bought
this
the
time. Don't worry,
PS4.
Sonny. I'm on this
Guys,
shit.
we need to just
Donkey Kong. Alright, let's get this going. The hardware. So it's a
Alright, let me actually
phone that
start
you
with the
wear
hardware.
on your
This
chest that has
little
no
thing, this
screen,
build
no
of this
actual
thing,
way to
it's
interact with it
actually
except through
impressive.
AI.
Like, genuinely, I think if you're
Surveillance of
looking for a
product.
reason to feel like
Basically.
you're not getting ripped off, the hardware packaging actually kind of accomplishes that. Like, this pin is solid. It's aluminum. It's dense
Looks
feeling.
it looks
There's three
like a
colors,
actually
There's
high
all
quality
matte black,
product.
which is the cheapest one, or for $100 more, you can get white or this black and silver.
Why
one.
is it $100 more for
And
a
then
different
there's a lot
color?
of sensors packed up there. There's a camera, there's microphones,
That's
there's
stupid.
lights, there's a
Fingerprint
tiny
magnet.
class 2 laser projector.
Practically.
So this whole thing is like really densely packed. And then the magnets also that connect everything are super strong. So the back of this pin is called a booster. It's another battery. So it's got its own internal battery, but then once you attach it to your clothes, it cleverly, through your clothes, magnetizes there, makes a nice sound when you do, and that's how you get it attached. So you get 2 of these boosters, and since there's the internal battery, you can literally hot swap between them so the thing stays alive. Very clever. And then it also comes with this extremely well-made and also very, very reflective charging case. So you can pop it in there, or just your
Massive
battery in
yak
there,
session.
keep it topped off.
Yeah,
That
for
charges
real.
via USB Type-C.
I'm checking how things
This
are
is
looking
nice.
on
And it also
TikTok
comes
real
with
quick,
this,
because I have this on
desktop
live
charging
with TikTok,
puck where you
and
can magnetize in
I
the
also have
battery
it going
or
in
the whole
vertical
thing,
on
the pin and
YouTube
the
as
booster
well.
at the same time. So that is a lot of charging and battery-related accessories, but they all come with it. And this pin, you know, it's also got these lights up at the top here that light up anytime you're doing anything. And there's also a small pin light notification for when there's something waiting for you. So between the weight of the parts and the strength of the magnets, how it all slaps together, like you can tell that a lot of effort was put into the craftsmanship of this product, which I very much appreciate. It's the best part of the pin by a lot. Okay, I want you to forget about the smartphone in your pocket for a second. Like, just for a minute, just pretend that doesn't exist. Ignore it, right? This little pin can do a lot of stuff and is very helpful. So again, think of this thing as an AI assistant that's like by your side all the time with you. So you can
I would
ask it
never want to
things.
buy
It
this.
doesn't have a wake word. It only turns the mic on and listens when you touch it. So you can go,
It is a shittier version
how
of
tall is the Empire
ChatGPT.
State Building?
Basically,
And then when you let go,
you have
it
to
starts
pay out
sending
the
that
ass
query out to the
for.
crowd.
The
And
Empire
the-
State Building is 1,450.
And it always listens to you. That's crazy.
Telesponsored.
The cloud, and then gets you an answer.
It's like
which is
if
great.
they took
And it also is
ChatGPT and put it in a little
multimodal, so that
tiny
means you can
Connect
look
you
at the
wear on your
camera
chest.
and
Hella
see things
sponsored.
and interact with the world around you. So
You think this is hella
look
sponsored?
and tell me what you see. So it'll scan the room, use the cloud again. That little noise was it taking a little image, sending that image to the cloud, analyzing it, getting it back, then deciding what
It
to tell
feels
me.
like
You are
it.
sitting in front of a camera and a laptop. The camera is on a tripod and pointed at you. The laptop is open and you are looking at it. There are 3 pictures of dogs on the wall behind you. There is a window to the left of the camera. There is a boom mic on the table in front of you. There is a red carpet on the floor.
Great. The camera can also take pictures or up to 15-second videos.
That
It can
is
auto-upload
terrifying.
while charging.
Okay.
It can also remember things you tell it to remember, and all these things will show up in the Humane Center. So that it's like this online web portal for all things connected to the pin. There's no app, it's just the website. So there you can see a whole history of who you've called and texted and what you've listened to and
Hey,
what answers
this
it
is
gave to your most
something,
recent
huh?
requests and all the things you told it to remember. It is pretty well rounded. I think probably its best tech demo feature though is the translate back and forth. You got a 2-finger gesture. You can go, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Where's the library?
So it auto detects the language, translates it to English, and the person who speaks back can translate back as long as you hold down the pin and listen to them. Pretty cool. This is all voice stuff though, so if at any point you're in a loud area or a very private area and you don't want to interact out loud with your voice, that's where this projector comes in. So it seems crazy, but you activate it like that and then you just hold your finger out, your whole palm, and it becomes a projector screen for the laser projector built into the pin. So it takes a little practice, but eventually you get used to holding your hand up in just the right spot, and then the UI gets projected in this green
What the fuck?
720p
Hey, surveillance
mini
bot.
screen on
Remember,
your hand.
I hate
So you basically
surveillance.
use your hand,
Okay,
try to be as
summoning the
flat as
CIA.
possible, and then to interact with it,
This is
there are some movement and
terrifying.
gestures. So there's a
What
kind of flight
the
sensor that
fuck?
keeps
There's
track of movement,
holograms built
and you
into
move
this
your hand
shit?
around, kind of like rolling a marble around in your hand to select something, then
That's
pinch
fucked
to
up,
select.
man.
You can then make a fist to go back, and then you literally push forward to move deeper into a menu. So this is like a 3D UI you have to learn. This is obviously very brand new for people, but I think to be fair, it is pretty intuitive. I think if you get a quick 60-second lesson, you kind of already have learned all the things you need. When you first connect the booster to the pin, you can unlock it, and unlocking it
I'm
with my
scared
pin
too.
is like
Bro,
this,
for real, this is something.
move your hand through space to select the numbers thing. It's literally like moving back and forth through a
I wouldn't
Rolodex
need
of
this though.
ring
This is a
numbers.
lot.
So it's one of
Like,
those like borderline magic things.
seems
where the
like
first time
I
you
feel like
see it, you
Apple
kinda
will have
just
something
get it,
built into the
and it
phones
clicks.
really, really
Even
soon.
if
That's
it is
better.
a little fidgety and a little bit inaccurate and kind of slow, but that gets us into the review.
I do have YouTube Premium. It's just the way this website browser works on OBS does not understand nor accept the fact that I have YouTube Premium.
FBI lil this company.
Bro, for reals.
So
FBI
unfortunately,
stay paying
this
off
thing
this company.
is bad at almost everything it does, basically all the time. Where did it start? So I guess first of all, okay, it's supposed to just answer questions, right? It can kind of do that sometimes, but one, it's often slow because most of these requests go to the cloud and come back, and there's just a long wait. And two, it's often wrong because AI still can hallucinate, and there are still issues with it just not understanding correctly or just saying the wrong thing. And that's not even mentioning server timeouts if you have a poor internet connection, which happens to me all the time in this studio. So when they do most of the demos, like on their websites and in their videos, they'll ask a question and then they'll let go and keep talking to fill the silence, so it's not awkward as you wait for an answer and realize how long it is. But even on this
Windows
fast
Vista app
studio
product
Wi-Fi
but
here,
ugly.
who
For
designed
real?
the Washington Monument?
Windows Vista ass product, but ugly.
Finding designer. The Washington Monument was designed by Robert Mills, a prominent 19th century American architect from South Carolina. The construction was eventually completed by
Okay.
Thomas.
So you can just hold your hand up to put your answer on your hand and interrupt that it's talking so much. But even that was like a pretty good performance for the AI pin in ideal fast Wi-Fi conditions. But there are many times when I feel like it's way slower, and it seems like it goes to the internet for almost everything. I mean, there's a
PLS
few
skip this vid.
queries I guess might be local, like
You don't want to watch it no more?
what time is it?
All right.
11:42
I'm in with this.
PM.
Like that's pretty
I think
fast,
we already
fast
have the
battery
fucking
life, tone
the
down
general
fast, but it feels
idea
like
of this, and it's
everything else
honestly,
is just showing
let's
it
just
off the
go
cloud,
straight to the
not
meat
being
and
on the delay.
potatoes, where I have a lot to say. I don't hate this video like you, Sonny, but I do have complaints about it.
This channel features
This is how I did one of the main things that I did not how I discovered the video music, but it's one of the things that educated me more about it.
Retro tech and hi-fi. Now, if you imagine all those three,
I actually
as a
did
Venn
discover it
diagram
from
where
watching
all
analog
three
television
circles intersect
channel
in the
shutdowns
middle
because there was a
as one
station in
particular product.
North,
It's inevitable, therefore,
upstate
that I was
New
gonna
York
feature that at some
that
point.
actually
That
featured
point
this
is
device.
now, and the product is the Atari Video Music.
His unit looks pretty fucking clean. I will say that. I think he had a modded unit from what I recall, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. Maybe he didn't.
The Atari Video Music was introduced to the market in 1977 in the US at a price of $169.95.
Very true.
And its only purpose was to do this.
Proceeds to be the worst example.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Dude, the
Or
example
get our
I
music
have
on
right
the
next
wrong
to it is
shortly.
10 times
Before I get to that,
better.
I wanted to do a bit about the background and the history of this.
Eat your
because
words,
it's quite
bro.
tricky
Come
to
on.
research. It was only on the market for a short period of time, and it was 40 years ago. Wikipedia wasn't much help. They thought it came out in 1976
Worst
at
example.
$200.
Literally.
It didn't.
Mine's right
Came
next
out
to it,
at
so-
a price of $169.95, and it didn't come out in 1976. It came out in 1977. I know these things are only minor details, but I've got the information from this book.
That's a
here,
good book.
Atari Inc. Business
That's
is
actually a
Fun.
good book.
And it says here that it was originally known as Project Mood during the development stage.
True.
And the integrated circuit design and PCB layout were only completed in November 76. It actually got FCC approval in February 77.
All
I
true.
believe that means it couldn't have gone on sale before then.
It's not a
Also,
horrible
in
video
this
in
old issue of
in
Billboard,
historical.
they were
This is
looking forward
also
to
a
seeing
good
it
article.
At the CES show in January 1977, and sure enough, a couple of weeks later, in their write-up of that event, they reported it being demonstrated and Atari advising it would be retailed at a price of under $200. But just to add an extra layer of confusion, the book I was reading indicated that Atari couldn't get Sears to stock the video music, which was a disappointment because they'd stocked the previous Atari devices, and therefore Atari had to retail it directly themselves. Whereas, of course, this advert I've been showing you is from Sears selling the video music.
You know, the Sears sold the video
Atari
music.
were riding high on the success of their home Pong console, which had come out towards the end of 1975. There'd been a few variations on that issued in the intervening year or so since before the introduction of the video music, but it was still very early days for plugging things into your television, as can be seen from this note here. Video music will also work on your black and white TV.
This is a funny
The
bit.
images will be in black and white, not colour. When used on a black and white TV, it may not produce the desired effect. Yeah, no kidding. Nowadays, everyone's familiar with the idea of plugging an interactive electronic device into a television screen. But even now, if a product like the Atari Music was launched, it would be a very niche device. So imagine launching that niche product in an era when people weren't familiar with the idea of interactive devices on their screens. They really were giving themselves an uphill battle. And
This
it's
is
no
all
surprise
really
they
true
didn't
stuff,
manage to
but
sell very
I
many
do
of these.
think,
It was advertised for a while
well, from the
as a
business
disco
perspective,
accessory,
he's not
but
wrong on
quickly
saying that
only
it
on the
was
market
kind of
for
one of
about
those things.
a
It's
year
like,
or
what were
so
they
before
thinking?
it completely
But that
disappeared.
doesn't mean I don't
To
think
some
it. I
companies,
don't
this
think
would
it's an
be a
underwhelming
disaster, but
experience
to
whatsoever.
Atari,
I love
they
using it.
Straight back because
But that'll
the
get
next
later
product
on.
they came up with was the VCS, and that was, of course,
The Atari
a massive
2600.
success.
Everyone loves
So very
2600.
quickly they forgot
I have a
about it.
2600. Ed. Bullshit. Who the hell is this dude,
I
bro?
love it.
The video music. But we haven't forgotten about it, and that's what matters. So let's take a good look at it
You're
now.
arcade.
The first thing that comes to mind when you look
Hell
at this
yeah.
is that it's a piece of hi-fi equipment. It's got the wood panels on the
His
side,
unit is in,
silver
like,
front on there, the
pristine
silver
condition.
knobs along the top, and it is designed to fit in with hi-fi of that era, and it does. As
Mine's
well.
not
It's
in
supposed to be able
terrible
to stack
shape,
it
but
up
it's
in a rack of
some of
hi-fi, and
the
it
knobs
goes
are a
out
little.
of place.
I have two
Around
of
the
them
back,
actually, to
we've
be
got
fair.
a
The other
very
one I
small
have is
amount
in
of
better
things coming
shape.
out of here. The first one is a power lead. It runs on US voltage, and it's got a little bit of a
Yes, it
wall
does.
wart
Yes,
attached
yes.
to the end of there. We've also got an RF out for the video out
There you
signal.
go.
That
It's an
should
F
go into a little
connector.
switch box, which you'd put on the back of your TV. I haven't got the switch box, but I can use that with
Use
a
an
little
F connector to
adapter.
coaxial
And then
adapter to
also
connect
we've
that.
got the stereo left and right input. The sound going into
RCA.
those would come from your hi-fi's amplifier, and you'd send the sound out of the record output.
Yep.
And that would mean that you could send the sound off to the Atari Video Music.
That's what's going on right
but
here.
You could also send it off to your speakers, because the Atari Video Music doesn't send the sound.
This is one of the hardest parts about doing everything I do.
You to send that sound out of your amplifier off to a separate set of speakers. So you can see it's quite.
So then hold up, I want to pause the video. So not only do I have to send it to the Atari Video Music and to my speakers, but I also have to send it back to my computer, and it all has to be synchronized or it doesn't work. That's what makes like the production of like everything that I do really hard, and also why I think not many people really even want to deal with it.
The era when most people
You might have
wouldn't
adapters you need.
hi-fi speakers surrounding their televisions in some sort of multimedia setup. They're more likely to have a separate TV in one corner and then a hi-fi somewhere else in the room. For demonstration purposes, I've set it up here on this 15-inch CRT broadcast monitor. I have tried it on the large TV in the lounge, and it was just too large. The flashing images actually made me feel a little bit ill.
See,
which is
he
why
just
I put that
admitted the
warning
entire
at the
point of why he
beginning
shouldn't
the
even be the
video.
person
Now,
making
the
this
music I'm going
video.
to be demonstrated this with comes from one of the patrons to the channel. So if you like this, I've got links to
time to
his
piss me
music
off.
in the video description. Now let's go through
Let's
the
see how
controls
doper
on
my
the front of this Atari music. It looks to
in
have a lot
comparison
of
looks.
controls, but in reality, you can't really affect the images being displayed too much. There's a certain theme which is
You can. You definitely can. I'm just not touching it right now, but I can fuck around with it right now. Just to prove this entire point.
4 buttons which will affect the shape of the object that's displayed. At the top in the middle there's a dial to adjust the colour, and then below there are buttons which will affect how many things are shown horizontally, and then finally on the right hand side at the top we've got the contour controls, and below that are the amount of things that will be shown vertically. It doesn't make too much sense until I show you. So these are the gain controls. You can see it's adjusting the size of the diamond that's displayed on the screen. Now, turning the colour dial, of course, affects the colours that are being shown. It's a little bit hard to pin down exactly what is happening when you turn it in each direction, but they do tend to shift to a slightly different palette, although they are a series of shades of pastel-y neon colours. They don't come through very well on the camera, but I'll show you on a captured video in a moment. And then I'm now adjusting the contour at the end, which you can see is just really just messing up the image. So my nice, sharp diamond shape is now a little bit distorted. So I'll turn it back to where it was originally, and I'll show you what the buttons do across the bottom. Well, if
Looks
we go
so
across
shitty
the
on
middle,
his
first
video.
of all,
For
you see
real.
we could go from 1 diamond to 2, and then to 3, and then, no, you guessed wrong, it's 5, the next one. If we do that vertically, we start off with 1, then 2, and then 4, and then...
Looks way shittier on his.
Now, if we go back to 1 diamond again, just so we can start off nice and clean, and then go on the left-hand side for the different shapes. Well, we've got a diamond, we've got a diamond.
Dude, even my like
and then we've got a diamond,
effects on my TV, I've made it look better. That's just, this is just sad. The fact that he is doing this like this.
It cycle through the displays itself. Now, I'm going to show you a bit more footage with the lights turned down.
Yeah, no, dude, no. Where's the color? Oh my god, this is the worst footage I've ever seen.
Here, and then I'm going to show you some more footage that I captured directly from the device, but one thing I'll say about that, I think the audio might be ever so slightly out of sync with the video.
Dude,
anyway,
bro, don't do this if you don't know what you're doing. I completely even forgot about this. I haven't seen this video in a minute. This is horrible. Oh my god. The color is saturated. It looks straight white. And you could obviously tell just by looking at my stream that that's not an accurate representation of the colors here. Easily, you could easily tell. Look at how much more vibrant the colors are on my stream. That's how the colors are supposed to look. That's how this is supposed to look. He also stretched it to 16:9 because, I don't know, I guess this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He stretched it to 16:9, which is not what you're supposed to do. This is a 4:3 image. You keep it 4:3. You do not stretch it to 16:9. That's common sense. I think anybody should know that in audio or video production.
Impressed by this device. It's 40 years.
Yeah, dog, bro, you're not using it right. I'm sorry, but you're just as old as it. You should know how to use this. What are you doing?
Just a year or so before this.
Also, this video was made a while ago, so maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Or honestly, maybe he just didn't care.
Monitor would even be better.
Yeah. Well, bro, it just seems like he didn't even... It seems like he doesn't have a lot of experience in recording CRTs, because even my videos of directly recording my CRT look a lot better than this.
Impressive, but the novelty wears off very quickly. I noticed that the
I just don't agree with that, because I think you could listen to any song through it, so the novelty is endless. It has endless replayability.
It looks almost as good as new in here, but whilst we've got it open, we can have a look around.
On
the left-hand side, we've got the modulator.
Hell yeah.
There's a switch on the back of that, which can be accessed through the hole in the bottom of the case. And changing that would alter the RF output channel.
Yeah, you could change it from 3 to 2.
Which says Pat 2 on it, and that won't have seen the light of day for 40 years. Over on the other side of the circuit board, there's a stamp, which might be a date code for the production date. It says 2077, which could possibly be the 20th week of 1977.
Oh, his? Yeah, he's not going to break his, don't worry.
In case you can see we've got all
if you're talking to me, though, I have 2 of them.
And they all go to a ribbon,
so I won't break it.
Into the circuit board.
I literally have 2 units.
Below there are all the switches. I can see that this is a neatly laid out and clearly labelled circuit board. However, that's about all I can tell you. If you want to learn more about the circuitry inside here, I suggest you watch the video from Ben Heck, where he records
for real.
video music, and I'll put a link to that in the video description. He, of course, knows an awful lot more about electronics than I do. One thing I have learnt about this, though, is that there's a bit of a grounding issue, which means if you don't plug the power in before you plug your RCA cables in, you run the risk of frying the circuitry. Now, because I've imported this device from the US to the UK, I'm using it through a step-down power converter. But additionally, the video signal that comes out of the back of it is in NTSC over RF. So to convert that to something that I can display, I've got this little box here. Now, this can be set to whatever channel the device outputs on. So I've set it to channel 4, because that's the channel the Atari Video Music sends out. It goes into the RF input on the back of here. It then converts it over and sends out a composite video signal, which could then be put into any standard monitor. If you want to know how to get hold of one of these, I'll have links in the video description.
Would sound
a slightly
good
bulkier alternative would have been to use an old NTSC video recorder to do the same job. If you're at all aware of the history of Atari, you'll probably know that recreational drugs were quite common there in the 1970s.
Yes, they were.
This was dreamt up, and apparently the stories go that this is a product that came out of one of those sessions. However, it wasn't purely invented then, it was more of an alteration of a previous idea, an electronic version of something that had gone before. If you'd look through the catalogues of the 1970s, and I remember these things
color organs
into the 1980s in Tandy and Radio Shack catalogues,
these things are sick.
there were always these sound to light devices where you'd play music and lights would flash and patterns would emerge on these.
Those things are sick. I'd love to. Color organ, three channel color organ.
Video music is an
love those things.
Of one
I want to get one myself.
And music visualizers didn't die off with the Atari Video Music. In fact, it's not even the last Atari branded device with a music visualizer built in. That honor would go to the Atari Jaguar Games console.
Yeah, that's not something I'm buying. That's too much money.
Devices such as the new on DVD player, and then music visualizers carried on in software through programs like Winamp and iTunes. But that shouldn't take anything away from the Atari Video Music. It's still a unique and fascinating device. With the benefit of hindsight, it's clear that the Atari Video Music would never be a mass-market product. This was a device that cost $100 and had to be plugged into both a hi-fi and a television. All it did was play back coloured patterns on the TV screen. There just weren't that many people out there that wanted that. However, this was a very experimental time in electronics, and Atari led the field. They didn't know what would be a hit or a miss.
This is the truth.
Along was a massive success. That was the Atari VCS, and that retained the lovely wood panels of this machine. So this was only out for about a year or so. And it's become quite a collectible now.
They're very expensive.
It's a rare device, or at least I thought it was rare, but if you look on YouTube, it seems
they're pretty rare.
A lot of people with these. And what I suspect's happened is that
there's not really a lot of people on YouTube. There's only really like me, Atari Video Garage, and then there's a few people who did it back in the day, but nobody consistently. The only other, I'll just pause it and say this because I think this is important to know. The only other creator on YouTube that has like done anywhere near is like the level of consistency, and not even, because he only did it for a little while, and nothing against this guy, but he just doesn't do it anymore. He did it a few years ago and he made, I think, like 40 or so visualizations, and then he got bored with it or something. But there, aside from me and then the Atari Video Music Garage, there is basically no other focused content creator, like no one else. Just a bunch of other people who did one-off example videos that were horrible.
Broken and being thrown away. So despite them probably only selling a few of these, I think there's still quite a lot of them that are still in use. And there is even a modding community that have modded these up to
hard to do,
additional effects. But I hope you've enjoyed this little look at the Atari Video Music. And that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.
What about my requests and I love this device?
Hell yeah. What about my requests and I love this device? They'll be coming soon, don't worry. They will. I need to, I actually have a video. I'll probably do the thumbnail after this one. We'll put on this video for my next song, and then I have a bunch more coming out.
About CED, RCA's capacitance electronic disc, a video delivery system that held video on a vinyl disc, which was read by a stylus. It was such a monumental flop, it brought down the RCA Corporation with it. With the benefit of hindsight, of course, the idea of reading video off a vinyl disc with a stylus seems archaic when Laserdisc had been out for a couple of years prior to its arrival, which was reading, of course, video off an optical disc with a laser. So clearly, capacitance electronic disc was never going to be a success, was it? Well, hold on a minute. Imagine an alternate reality where CED had existed alongside Laserdisc up to the 1990s and had actually been moderately successful. No, I'm not making this up. This actually happened in Japan with the VHD system. Let's have a look at it. It's largely forgotten nowadays, but in the late 1970s there was a three-way race to be the company to sell the public pre-recorded video on a disc. Philips had their LaserVision system, also known as DiscoVision, and then later to be known as Laserdisc.
I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab something upstairs. I'm going to keep the video going, though.
And the Victor Company of Japan had VHD, which stood for Video High Density. Now, as well as the companies behind the development of each of these technologies, there were additional companies who were brought on board who backed each respective system. For example, Philips had Pioneer, JVC had Matsushita, who brought along their Panasonic and National brands, fans, it was a proper three-horse race. Nobody knew which of these technologies was going to be the one that won out. RCA's CED and JVC's VHD use very similar technologies, albeit the CED has a larger disc inside the caddy at 30 centimeters across. The VHD used a 26 centimeter disc, and it doesn't sound like an awful lot of difference, but in reality it does make it quite a bit of a neater system. The caddy for it feels more like you're holding a magazine rather than a vinyl record. Each disc can hold up to 60 minutes of video per side, which is the same as RCA's larger disc system. So I suppose that's why they call this one video high density. We've got the same amount of video on a smaller sized disc. Those discs are carbon impregnated vinyl, which makes them conductive, but unlike RCA's system, they don't have a groove on them running from the outside to the inside for a stylus to follow. This one uses concentric rings, and the stylus measures the capacitance by skirting across the top of those rings from the outside to the inside of the disc.
Sonny, we got ourselves
just like on a compact
ice cold Coca-Cola,
a series of pits of varying
triple
lengths,
decker Reuben sandwich. Got that shit for free, bro.
On a VHD, it's read
from
difference in capacitance
this deli right across the street from where I live.
Over the top of them.
Oh, some lady was complaining and bitching, and then she stormed out. I was waiting to get a wrap. Like I like the wraps they make there. I was getting a barbecue chicken BLT wrap, and basically, lady was flipping out. So I go to pay for my wrap and get it because I had their food and I've always loved it. And I don't know what the fuck she was bugging out about. She was just kind of being like Karen. And I get up to the guy, and the guy's like, "Yo, do you want the sandwich?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want the sandwich, bro." I had your food for it. But let's see.
But this was a deliberate
see if he fucked up. He said he wasn't super confident in it, but honestly, it's not looking horrid.
In Utah, you cannot say the words God and Jesus without being scolded.
However, it could only hold 30 minutes of video per side.
Are you from
most of the laser
Utah?
sold, though, were in the
I've had friends from Utah way back in the day on Xbox.
Higher resolution than the VHD
they were all really cool
system.
people.
And in addition, there was no stylus to wear out on Laserdisc. On a VHD, you'd need to replace the stylus every 5,000 hours of play or so. Nevertheless, the VHD system made its debut at the beginning of the 1980s because it held a couple of aces up its sleeve. The first one being that it was quite a bit cheaper to buy a VHD player than it was a Laserdisc system. And secondly, the VHD discs held much of the interactive capabilities of a 30-minute Laserdisc.
Yes, everyone will scold you if you say what I call Chris and swear words.
This that drew the attention of Thorn EMI in the UK, who plan to launch it here.
I believe it, though.
Public. However,
I've been close to Utah. I've been to Nevada before. My grandfather lived there for many years before he moved back to New Jersey with us. My grandmother passed away sadly.
Away from selling it to the public and just made it as an interactive display system.
From
However,
Utah.
they had invested a significant amount of money into the development of VHD in Japan. So, of course, the system was ready to go, and JVC decided to launch it in Japan. Up until about 1986, there were still plans to launch the VHD system in the US, but I think they dropped the idea eventually due to public apathy to the Laserdisc and CED formats. However, it did continue apace in Japan, and by the mid-80s, 85, 86, it was probably at peak sales. It was quite a popular system. It came second to Laserdisc, but in price, it definitely came first. There's an article here where you can see that people might choose VHD over Laserdisc because the fact a VHD player could be picked up for the equivalent of $576 US, whereas a Laserdisc player was $929.
Sandwich wasn't the best, but it was free.
Popping over to the excellent Laserdisc database, we can see they do have a VHD section on there, and that catalogues the last releases on the format as coming out in October 90.
Look, you want a pizza after having that?
After the VHD system will have started to wane, and that'll have happened when Laserdisc player prices became more affordable, making the VHD system seem less attractive. You might also notice on there that there are some 3D titles that came out on the VHD system. This seems to be unique to this particular format of the era. It's perhaps down to the way the discs were laid out. The 3D discs were played at double speed and alternated the frames between the left and right eyes. And of course you bought some 3D goggles which had LCD shutters in them, which synchronized with those and gave you a full 3D image. And the VHD
Here
system
we're
was
getting a
particularly
rescreening
suited
of
for
the
use in
TMNT
video
movie.
karaoke machines because you could hold 60 minutes of video.
What did you say? My bad,
on
I'm sorry.
disc while having them accessible.
We're getting a
by
rescreening of the
chapters.
1993
So with the VHD
Fuck yeah.
system dying in 1990,
Teenage Mutant Ninja
they've got to
Turtles is
experience
fire.
the collector's market of the 90s that the Laserdisc serves so well. That's when Laserdisc got its second wind, offering collector's editions with director's commentaries, widescreen digital sound. VHD was pretty much stuck back in the 1980s, occupying a middle ground between RCA's basic CED system and the more elaborate but more expensive Laserdisc. Okay, so that's the history side over and done with. Let's try playing a VHD. I imported this old machine from Japan. It was advertised as not functioning, so it didn't cost so much. However, the postage was horrendous. This thing weighs an absolute ton. I also bought a couple of discs to play on it. I thought might as well get some of those ready. And this is a higher end machine that should be able to play 3D titles as well, so hopefully in time I'll be able to get some of those glasses. Had a look inside to see what was wrong, and it doesn't have a stylus in it. Well, obviously that's not going to work with no stylus. After a number of months of searching,
He fixes
I
it
managed
and
to find
reloads
the
the
stylus
eject
for this
mag.
machine. You can
Hell
imagine
yeah.
somebody having one of these, the stylus wears out, they think, I can't be bothered getting a new stylus, and then just putting it away on a shelf. So I imagine if I put this stylus in here, I'll be off and running. However, these things don't always work out according to plan. Unfortunately, the machine itself just didn't work at all. So I've got a brand new stylus for an old machine that's just non-functioning.
Chicken Bacon Ranch?
So,
What the fuck?
okay, take two. Buy a brand new machine. Okay, so when I say brand new, I mean new old stock. It's been sat in this box since May 1987, so almost 30 years. So hopefully this thing still works. I don't think they use belts in these, so those shouldn't have perished. I'm just hoping it's going to operate. We've got everything inside the box here, all the different instruction leaflets, of course, all in Japanese. I've even got the guarantee I can send off there in that little envelope, and a list of the titles available on VHD. I'd imagine this has been sat in the box so long because this was towards the end of the format's life, and they probably had difficulties selling the machines off. And someone's probably got a warehouse of these somewhere. So yeah, a bit of a lower end model than the other one. Notice it's got cushioned feet on here, spring-loaded feet. That's because, of course, you don't want it to bang around while it's reading a disc. We've got RF in and out on the back here, which a lot of people would have connected it up with in the 80s. We've got the lead included for that. We don't have a lead for these. These are the composite video outs. That's what I'm going to be using, of course. And on the right here, we've got a power pass-through, which you could connect up to, say, an amplifier if you're using it as a karaoke device, and it runs on 100 volts, so I'll need to use a voltage converter. On the front, we've got the power button on the left here, the long door which you put the discs into, or the cartridge into, I suppose, the caddy, infrared remote control receiver, volume control on the bottom there, together with a headphone socket, 4 buttons along the top, and we've got lights underneath those to indicate what's going on. Quite a simple machine, but very neat as well. Of course, the remote control gives you access to all the features of the player. For example, if you wanted to jump to a chapter, type the number in at the top and then press that green button, it would go to that. At the bottom, we've got transport controls. I wasn't sure what these things were on the left, though, so I've got the Google Translate app out, and as we can see, the top button at the top of the screen there, it says that one is mode. The next one down is volume large dog. Brilliant. And this one is small volume, so volume up and down. And then this one is repeat. I know what that one means. Right, the batteries that are included, I thought I'd check those out before I got going, and yeah, completely dead. So that could have had me puzzled for a while if I hadn't expected that. Yeah, so I replaced them with some brand new batteries instead. All I have to do now, in addition to that, is connect the device up to something. So I'm going to test it out here first of all.
Google Translate is shits and giggles.
Composite leads in to the back, and of course I'm going to have to
Google,
power
that shit's
something. So I've got a 100-volt step down.
That's just literally wild.
Which has enough wattage to be able to cope with this device. So I plug that in, plug the power into that. And to play back the video, I'm going to use this Sony broadcast monitor that I bought off eBay a while ago for next to nothing. They're very cheap, these nowadays. Anyway, opening the door on the front there manually because it wouldn't open automatically for some reason, putting the caddy in there, and it grabs it. It clicks on it and will not let it go for love nor money. So something is obviously wrong. And then I thought, hold on, it's got a stylus in here. Those are often locked down for transport. So I had a look at this information on the sticker, and sure enough, when you translate that, it turns out into
Yo, Sony, I gotta throw this sandwich was nasty. I think I understand why they is shits angles and giggles. Yeah, no, you're right. Google Translate is shits and giggles. This sandwich is nasty. I'm just gonna throw this away, bro. It was so bad.
Sure enough, yeah, I have to lose a screw inside here. So let's take this lid off and have a look. And there it is, there's a red screw. So sure enough, loosen that, it releases the arm, which is now free to move, and as you can see, the arm can move inwards. However, the damn thing still will not let go of my caddy, so I'm going to have to take the lid off here and see what's going on inside. Turns out the caddy's being held back by a couple of plastic teeth, so I just eased it off though so I could have a proper look at it. Twisted this cog around on the left, the disc dropped down to where it should do, and sure enough, the video started to play. There's always something incredibly satisfying and slightly magical about getting a device working that's been sat in a box, in this case for close to 30 years, that's never performed the function it was designed for. So finally now we can see it working. However, I'm still having issues with the eject mechanism. The arm's moving back and forward fine, the video's playing fine, the door opens on the front fine. However, when I put the caddy up to that and get the disc to eject into the caddy, it just wants to keep hold of that caddy and not let go. So something's still a little bit wrong with that eject mechanism. Now, I'd anticipated that something like this might happen, so I bought a very cheap VHD of a film I'm not particularly interested in, because I thought I might have to sort of pull it out of the machine and manhandle it. And if you do that, of course, you damage the surface of the disc, which would make it unplayable. As it was, I don't need to sacrifice this disc. It's a simple matter of a cog not turning its full rotation. You see this little white cog in the top of the screen here, which looks a lot like the maze symbol out of Westworld. Well, that's supposed to have grease on it, but of course that's hardened up over time. So this little silver arm, this metal arm that's supposed to travel around the track on there, wasn't going the full distance. So it's
We're back, Sonny.
of course, of just
Crown
cleaning it
Royale.
up and replacing the grease
Apple.
with some new silicone grease. And sure enough, once that was done, it was functioning perfectly. So here's how you operate it. You press the on button, the door on the front opens up automatically. You put your caddy into the machine, it pulls the disc out of the caddy, it will beep to let you know that you can remove the caddy, and then it starts playing the disc automatically. Wow. And of course, when it comes to ejecting the disc, you just press the eject button, the arm moves back to the beginning, the door opens, you put your caddy in, puts the disc back in the caddy, beeps again, you take the caddy away. Very nice and neat, really. As entertaining as it is to watch this mechanism, and I could probably watch this all day long, I can imagine this would have been the Achilles heel
This is cool.
of the VHD machines. If anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong with this. However, mine is now working fine, so let's get it all back together again and just have a look at some of the discs that I've got to play on this. Now, because this video has taken me about a year to put together, every time I saw a VHD advertised at a reasonable price, I picked it up. And as a result, I've got a nice little collection here of some of the 1980s blockbusters. And those were the things that were primarily sold on this format in the mid-80s. That's when it was at its height. You can see on the back here, we've got some other alternate titles that are available at the time. Notice the price is 7,800 yen for these ones at the bottom. However, Aliens at the top is 9,800 yen. That's because that's a 2-disc title. Now that 7,800 yen price, that is exactly the same as a Laserdisc cost at the time. So it wasn't any cheaper to buy a VHD than a Laserdisc. It was just the machines themselves were cheaper. I'd imagine a lot of people rented these things anyway. Now, Return of the Jedi is the only 2-disc title I have. Of course, they have to go to 2 discs when the film length exceeds 2 hours, which is the maximum you can fit on both sides of one disc. Notice here, disc 2, side 1 says 35 minutes 44. However, side 2 has got some text next to it. I was interested in finding out what that actually said. When I try and translate it again in this app here, it says, "From be no." Okay, I suppose that just means there's nothing on here or something. But did you notice something there? Interesting. There's a bit of text in the middle here. When that came on the translation, it said something unexpected for me here. Revenge of the Jedi, it will be, of course. So, of course, that's the original title of Return of the Jedi. So, presumably, in Japan, they knew it as Revenge of the Jedi. Or perhaps I'm just talking nonsense. Getting back to what I do know, inside each of the VHD discs that I've got, you get a leaflet like this. In the case of Return of the Jedi, it details the aliens in the film, gives you some production notes, talks about the people that are in it, as well as the people who made it. I think they should give out things like this with films nowadays. You can see this is one of the earlier discs that I've got, because looking at the bottom
Leaving
here,
at
it's
9
going on
p.m.
about
my
the Temple
time
of
or
Doom will
11
be coming
p.m. your time.
in summer 1984.
All good,
so
G.
presumably the disc came
No
out just before
problemo.
then.
You have a good
Also,
night,
Back to
Sonny.
the Future, which I have to get on every
I'll probably watch
podcast
some
for the
conspiracy
sake of it.
videos for a little
And on
while.
the back of here, I bet they were glad that this one is just under 2 hours. You can see it just about fits on one disc. Of course, I'd imagine when you go to 2 discs, they'd sell less because the discs themselves cost more to buy. Notice it says digital there. Nothing digital really going on in the film itself. Of course, the soundtrack is Dolby Surround, and it does sound good, but it's not Dolby Digital. And rounding up the rest of the titles, we've got Saigon, which you saw earlier on, and I've also got this one, which is a bit unusual, Starview HCT 5808. I thought this was going to be anime with music. It doesn't have any dialogue in it. Turns out it's just a load of still frames with some plinky plonky music. Not that exciting, really, but only available on VHD or Laserdisc. And then this is the best one, Movies number 5. This is a VHD magazine. Effectively what it is a load of different trailers as well as interviews and things put together in order to try and sell US films to Japanese audiences. This was introduced in 1986 when VHD sales were at their height. It continued over 9 issues, with the last one of those coming out in 1988. Inside Volume 5 here from 1987, there's a survey to send off to tell them what films I'm interested in seeing on the VHD format. There's also a form you can use to order posters of some of the titles that are featured in this issue, and inside there's more information about some of those films as well. Now, you may have noticed at the beginning I lifted out that form which listed all the titles that were available on the format at the time my machine was made. And there's quite a lot on
80s
there,
overdose
different
incoming.
genres, as you can see, including
For real.
3 issues of the video magazine I've just shown you, as well as a lot
Love
of other
the 80s.
titles that unfortunately I'm unable to read because I can't read Japanese. However, there are a couple of names you can pick out, and you can see the headlines for the karaoke.
You'll be easy though when you got to
One
get off,
that you
Sonny.
might be particularly interested
Have a
in
good night,
is
bro, and I will be
interaction.
around
And this
tomorrow
is
when
the
you
thing
do
that
get off. I will
VHD is
probably be
most
live though
probably
with the
famous
stream,
for
probably
now
till
in the
about 12.
West, because if you watch any videos of old obscure games collectors, you might have seen a VHD machine connected up to an MSX computer playing back one of these interactive games. To explain how this works, I'll use Dragon's Lair
Well,
as an
this is
example,
cool.
although it wasn't out on the VHD format. But you should be aware, in Dragon's Lair it plays an animation until you have to make a choice. For example, if you go left, you'll die. If you go right, you'll be okay. So if you choose to die, then the animation that gets played is off the alternate rings on the disc. VHD has the ability to skip individual rings and play the ones with the death animation on them. However, if you choose to go right and survive, it will play the alternate rings, and that's basically how an interactive disc works. Okay, so enough chit-chat about things I don't have. Let's play some of these discs that I do. We've got plenty to be getting on with here. I've attached the machine up to the television in the lounge, the main TV, and I've got to say, it doesn't look out of date here at all. And that might say more about the lack of imagination of equipment manufacturers than it does of this thing being particularly timeless, but it certainly doesn't seem to have aged any to say it's getting on for 30 years old now. Anyway, put the disc in the machine and let's have a look at it. Now, depending on the age of these discs, there's 2 different kinds of intros at the beginning of them. So let me play you the old one first, followed by the new one.
This is 80s overload. Holy shit, I like that.
Listen,
I have YouTube Premium, bro. That's the bullshit. It's just the stupid web browser that they have built into OBS doesn't support. I don't know. It can't read or recognize the fact that I have Premium for some reason. Whew.
You son of a bitch.
So I'll talk about some of the features of the disc while this is playing. The subtitles you see at the bottom, those are burnt in on the video. Those aren't selectable like on a DVD, just like on a Laserdisc there on the actual video itself. You can jump between chapters. You can see how quickly it can do this. I'll press the chapter up button to go straight to chapter 4. You can go to an individual chapter if you
but
type
I mean
the
of the
number in
movies
on the
video
remote
magazine.
control. The trick play capabilities are one of the big selling features.
Oh, is that what
of
you
the
meant?
day. Much is made of this in all the promotional
This is cool too, though. This is kind of an overload.
The ability to play things in 2 times speed, as you can see here, with the sound still playing, or you can play in half speed reverse, perfectly smooth with no interference on the picture at all, something that VHS wasn't capable of doing. And of course you can fast forward at various speeds. It looks just like fast forwarding a DVD or a Blu-ray nowadays, other than of course the picture quality. What's particularly impressive though is the half speed reverse, where you can adjust the video back and forth and there's just no interference at all. It looks perfect. The pause, that is where there was a bit of an issue. You can see here Indy's having a bit of a jitter issue, and of course that's because there's 2 frames per rotation. So we're jumping back and forth between 2 frames. If you find the right part of the video where nothing moves over 2 frames, you can get a pretty good still with it. But of course this wasn't as good as a CAV Laserdisc, which could do a perfect freeze frame of any frame of the movie. So back in 1980, when
so it had some, like, I guess it had some technological doubts compared to laser
technology and make it look as good as Laserdisc, they cheated. They put a digital frame store under the table, which at the time cost £10,000, and enabled the operator to get a perfect freeze frame of any frame out of the disc. It just goes to show you how important at the time these trick play features were. Now, I just want to play you the title sequence out of this Movies magazine. Remember, this is from 1987, and I've got to warn you that watching this might give you a 1980s overdose.
This is sick. I'm liking this shit.
Cool 80s cassette tapes av intro, and I love it.
Hell yeah.
In this issue
That's exactly what it gives you the vibe of.
Broderick in the new suspense thriller, Project X. We'll go behind the scenes of the explosive action-adventure film, Death Before Dishonor. And visit with Bette Midler and Shelley Long on the set of their smash hit comedy, Outrageous Fortune.
Ah, the good old 80s. Anyway, you'll notice on the disc here we've got a table of contents. So we've got a menu system which is split over a number of screens, and we can access the individual chapters for the particular part of the disc that we're interested in watching. If you wanted, you could watch it all the way through from the beginning to the end in one go. But I'll take you through to chapter 10 and show you a little bit of the behind the scenes of RoboCop.
Well, today we're shooting the scene where Murphy gets killed by the gang. First they blow off his hand, and then they blow off his arm, then they blow off his head.
Wow, what do you say about that? This guy, he's really pretty intense about the whole thing, but the sound of that hand popping off, we've just got to listen to that once more. Brilliant. But I used to love this stuff in the 80s and into the 90s when they did this behind the scenes thing. It's nice to see some of these actors that are no longer with us, or people who are a lot younger than they are now, talking about what they want to do with their careers. But anyway, let's go on to Back to the Future now and just have a look at some video scenes out of this to compare the quality between these and Laserdisc. So I've got the VHD here, as you can see on the screen, a nice capture, and I happen to have the Laserdisc of this one because I bought the Laserdisc just to put on the wall as a frame because I like the art on the sleeve, but I do also happen to have the disc still out of it, so we could do a nice A-B comparison, and I'll do a freeze frame out of the VHD and I'll do a freeze frame out of the Laserdisc, and we'll see how much difference there really was in quality between the two formats. So first off, starting with the VHD, you can see it's pretty washed out, isn't it? I mean, it's not like video nowadays, but let's look at Laserdisc. Now that is sharper. Not massively so though. Let's zoom in so we can see a little bit more detail. So look at the sign behind the lady there, and then we'll switch back to VHD and you can see the letters on that do get quite a bit softer. In fact, if we zoom in even more, it's pretty hard to read this now, but go back over to Laserdisc again and you can make out a couple of words. You can definitely make out clock on the end of that anyway, and perhaps tower at the bottom. But just look at Blu-ray. There you go. That's what Blu-ray looks like. And of course, we zoomed in. If we zoom out, just look at the difference in the colours and the sharpness and things. We really are spoilt now with the modern formats for movies compared to the 80s. However, one thing I should point out, on VHD, this film was shot as an open matte. And what that means is it's cropped for a cinema release and on the Blu-ray, but that's what it should look like. So look at the top right there, Cupid's Adult Store, you can see there, and Mall written at the bottom right. If we go over to the Blu-ray, both of those things are cut off because because of course that's using the proper aspect ratio which the film is supposed to be shown in. So you do get a bit more height with VHD and Laserdisc for that matter on these old ones, but I'd much rather watch it on Blu-ray. Another disadvantage with these old formats is the limited capacity. You get to the end of your 60 minutes or whatever it is that fits on one side of a disc, and this happens. Side one, end. And at that point you have to get up out of your chair, find the caddy that you put down on the floor, put it back in the machine, get the disc back inside the caddy, and then take the caddy out, flip it over, and pop side B in the machine. And then once that's in there, you can then carry on with the rest of the film. I suppose it's a good time to take a break or something, but then it starts like this. So you do get a break in the film and it fades in. Now I should point out that the system worked flawlessly for me. Unlike the CED system, I had no dropouts or glitches whatsoever. Every video played beginning to end completely without any problems. It's basically like a VHS resolution, but without the chroma, crosstalk and the other glitches you get with VHS. And the sound's fine as well. It's Dolby Surround, it's not Dolby Digital, but it's nice and clear and there's no hiss. For me though, the best part comes when the film is finished and it's time to get it out of the machine, because I've never used a more satisfying eject mechanism than this one. When it comes to playing back old music formats, I can get just as much fun playing a reel-to-reel recording.
Still there, Sonny? This is cool.
Vinyl record.
This is a really cool video, no lie.
A FLAC file. However, when it comes to video, it's quite a different story. It really would take quite a lot to make me want to watch Back to the Future on VHD.
Let me know if you're still there, Sonny. I think I'm going to be going to a more scary kind of video.
Now, of course, there are the occasional film that are available in these older formats that aren't released on the current ones, but they are very few and far between. And especially if you're watching it on VHD, you're going to be watching it with Japanese subtitles at the bottom in standard definition in a cropped pan and scan version. So really, these old video formats are fun to play around with, fun to look at, but when it comes to actually watching films on them, then really they don't quite stand up anymore. However, I hope you've had quite a little bit of fun watching my video about the VHD format, and that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.
Alright, well, I think it's time we get to our conspiracy videos and such. All right. Watch this.
Storm de Buell was a 22-year-old Belgian YouTuber known for sharing his adventures across Northern Europe. He never spoke in any of his videos and instead used the ambient sounds of nature to make his viewers feel like they were right there with him. And while he started uploading videos in August of 2024, he'd actually been solo camping ever since he was just 19 years old. At one point, he even biked over 3,700 miles or over 6,000 kilometers across Sweden all on his own. So he had plenty of experience surviving in the wilderness alone. However, when nature turns unpredictable, even the most prepared adventurers find themselves struggling to survive. Tragically, that's exactly what happened with Storm on the night of October 29th, 2024. He was recording another video, this time traveling through the Jokkmokk region located in the Swedish Lapland, parked his car in a nearby town, and then ventured into the wilderness on foot with his camping gear. These trips often lasted multiple days, sometimes even a whole week before he made it back. October 29th was the last day of one of these trips. He was making his way back and was only a day's walk away from his car, but it was quickly getting dark and continuing to walk would have been extremely dangerous. So Storm made the decision to set up his tent and sleep for the night. A cold breeze was already sweeping through the region, prompting Storm to mount snow around his tent as a makeshift barrier before going to sleep. Unfortunately, nothing could have prepared him for the extreme weather he was about to encounter. because just a few hours after setting his tent, the Yakmak region got hit by an intense blizzard with winds reaching up to 75 miles per hour or around 120 kilometers per hour. Snow quickly started piling up all around his tent as well. But worst of all, the temperature not only fell below freezing to 21 Fahrenheit or -6 Celsius, the strong wind made it feel as cold as 0 Fahrenheit or -18 Celsius. Maybe he realized the gravity of his situation at this point and wanted to contact his loved ones. Because at around midnight, his friend received a video of him showing his tent getting torn apart by the terrifyingly strong wind, with him stating, "Tonight it's going to get worse, Jesus Christ." He also called his grandmother right after and reassured her of his safety, stating, "It's snowing heavily here, but don't worry, I'll survive, you know." Then at 2:36 a.m., the Swedish authorities received an SOS call from Storm. He reported multiple injuries, including a broken nose, and requested immediate help. Unfortunately, the strong wind made it impossible to reach him with the helicopter, and the snow obstructed any rescue efforts on the ground. The blizzard eventually subsided at around 10 a.m., and the rescuers rushed to Storm's last known location. Sadly, by the time they found him, it was already too late.
He died.
The lower half of his body had turned purple due to the extreme cold, and even the blood on his face from the broken nose was frozen solid. Oddly enough, he was found roughly 1.6 miles or 2.6 kilometers away from his collapsed tent. It's unclear if he was forced to ditch the tent after it collapsed or if he set out before that happened. In either case, he was walking towards his car when he likely fell, broke his nose, and then contacted the authorities. The only silver lining in Storm's tragic end is that at least he died doing what he loved, as he told his father when he first started going on these solo camping trips, "Dad, it took me a long time to know what I wanted, but that's what I want." Hannah Rose Moody was a 31-year-old YouTuber and influencer from Scottsdale, Arizona. And while most of her content on YouTube revolved around her faith as a Christian, her Instagram account posted mostly different content. There, she made regular posts about her hiking adventures across the rocky desert terrain of Arizona. Hitting the trails several times a week had become a natural part of her routine ever since she moved to Arizona 6 months earlier, and May 21st was supposed to be no different. She got up early and quickly drove to the Gateway Trailhead located in the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. She parked her car and began the roughly 4.5-mile or 7-kilometer hike across the loop trail. It was a moderately challenging trail with a rocky path and noticeable elevation changes, but nothing Hannah hadn't tackled before. She felt fairly confident she could finish the hike in under 3 hours and even made plans to hang out with friends at lunch. Unfortunately, what started as just another ordinary hike ended with a devastating tragedy. Her friends were the first to sense something was wrong when Hannah didn't show up for lunch on time. She didn't send any messages about running late and wasn't picking up her phone either. It wasn't like her to ghost people out of nowhere. So, after waiting at the restaurant for many hours, her friends decided to check on Hannah at her home at around 7:50 p.m., hoping she was simply resting after a tough hike. But when they arrived at her house, her car was missing from the driveway, the lights were off, and the door was locked. Seeing this, they immediately contacted the authorities. They found her car still parked at the trailhead, and it wasn't long before the search party was looking for Hannah across the Gateway Loop Trail with helicopters, drones, and canines. The search was eventually called off at 11:30 p.m. due to the darkness, and resumed the next morning with even more people partaking in the search. This went on till about 12:05 p.m. when a helicopter pilot made the heartbreaking discovery Hannah's friends and family were dreading all night. Just 600 yards off the trail, rescuers discovered the remains of Hannah Moody lying face down on the desert ground. Hannah was dead, and likely had been for several hours. However, there was nothing that could explain her end right away. There were no signs of foul play, no intoxicating substances were found in her system, and she didn't even have any serious head injuries from a fall or stumble. With that, the only explanation investigators were able to come up with was that Hannah lost her life due to extreme heat. You see, the temperature in the Gateway Trail region soared to over 102 Fahrenheit, or about 39 Celsius the day prior when Hannah was hiking. She likely suffered from a heat stroke and wandered off the designated path in confusion before collapsing and eventually passing away, leaving her YouTube and Instagram videos as an unintentional final goodbye to her loved ones. Finn Creaney was a 33-year-old survival expert from the Pitt County area in Scotland. Utilizing the skills he had, Finn operated a survival school in the area called Wildcat Bushcraft, teaching kids general wilderness survival skills as well as bushcraft, which, for those who don't know, includes things like foraging, hunting, and building shelter out of natural materials. The business was also accompanied by a YouTube channel of the same name, where Finn shared his knowledge and experience with the world for free. His content was both informative and entertaining, allowing him to slowly build a small but loyal audience. What these viewers didn't realize, however, was that one day, this very channel would also play a role in Finn's tragic end. Things went south on the 25th of March 2022 when Finn was dropped off at the B873 road near Loch Naver in Sutherland. His goal was to head south and hike the 45-mile distance to the small village of Golspie and make a video about the bushcrafting skills he had used along the way. Now, his family knew the journey would take more than a day, so they weren't too concerned when he didn't reach his destination right away. But then 3 days passed and there was no sign of Finn anywhere. Even more concerning was the fact that he didn't make any contact throughout this time, with every call from his family going straight to voicemail. So on day 3, Finn's father called the police and filed a missing person report, all while holding on to the hope that his son was simply lost, had broken his phone, or was just taking his time on the hike. Sadly, that couldn't have been further from the truth. In reality, Finn had somehow vanished from the area without a trace, and despite the police spending months searching the area surrounding Loch Naver, they couldn't find a single clue about his current whereabouts. Finn was even featured on a British unsolved mystery-style show about missing people called Vanished, but that also led nowhere. However, even after a year of fruitless searching, his father Mark didn't give up and kept looking for his son on his own. And after 19 months of following the same routine, he finally found the first real clue, Finn's backpack, partially hidden in the bushes along the bank of Loch Naver. While Mark never disclosed exactly what was inside, it gave him and the rest of Finn's family reason to believe that Finn had tried to take a shortcut across the loch and ended up drowning by accident. So, after searching for his body for a few more months, they made the tough decision to stop searching and accept the fact that Finn was truly gone. That said, many on the internet find it hard to believe that Finn actually tried to swim across the Naver and lost control in the process. Many asked why a professional survivalist would make such a rookie mistake, especially when he still had a multiple miles-long journey ahead of him, even if he had somehow made it across the Loch Naver. This doubt has given rise to many alternative theories that attempt to explain his mysterious disappearance. These range from fairly out there speculations like Finn doing this to fake his own death and build a new life, to some truly chilling hypotheticals like Finn going into the loch on purpose to end it all. Unfortunately, there just isn't enough evidence to confirm or deny any of these theories. What exactly happened to Finn remains a mystery to this day. Andrew Cross was a 36-year-old outdoor YouTuber from Grand Junction, Colorado. His channel, Desert Drifter, featured content that could only be described as archaeology mixed with exploration. He visited and made videos about any place he found interesting, from thousands-years-old stone walls to abandoned German spy caves from World War II. Beyond just being educational, his videos also boasted top-tier production quality, helping Andrew amass a massive audience in just 14 months on YouTube. Most importantly, his viewers loved his content and eagerly waited for the next upload. But then Andrew suddenly stopped posting after his upload in January 2025. Some assumed he was simply taking a break, while others figured the delay was due to his next video taking longer to produce. It wasn't until the 2nd of February that viewers received the truth from Andrew's wife, Evelyn, and it was far worse than any of his fans could have imagined. Andrew had gotten into a horrible car accident. He was waiting at a stoplight on the intersection between 1st Street and North Avenue in Grand Junction while on his way back from shooting a video about the Bears Ears National Monument in Utah on January 31st, 2025. When, out of nowhere, an out-of-control car rear-ended Andrew at an extremely high speed, resulting in his car flipping over and causing severe brain damage. He was rushed to a nearby hospital almost immediately. Unfortunately, it was already too late. He spent over a month in the ICU and was put on life support. During this time, it became abundantly clear that Andrew sadly had no chance of recovering from his injuries. So, on March 4th at around 10:50 a.m., his family made the difficult decision to let him rest and remove the life support system keeping him on the edge of life. This was devastating news for his hundreds of thousands of fans who were blissfully looking forward to his next upload not too long ago. These fans also banded together and raised over $544,000 for Andrew's family in their time of need. As for the person responsible for the crash, named Ragnar Nicholas Crystal, he was arrested 20 days later on February 21st and was later charged with vehicular homicide and driving under the influence. He's still awaiting conviction at the time of writing.
Oh shit, man. Oh shit, okay. Horrors from Live Leak, yeah.
There's nothing quite as relaxing as a walk through the woods. There's just something about briefly leaving civilization behind to wander through nature that clears your head like nothing else is able to. But as calming as a hike can be, this activity does potentially invite some darker possibilities as well. When you leave town to walk alone in a remote area, you're not just shedding the stress and aggravations of modern life, you're also forfeiting the safety and security it provides you. For that brief period of time you're out in the further reaches of woodland, you're just as vulnerable as the animals that scurry away when they see you. And this makes you a prime target for any predators that may or may not be hiding in the shadows. In late 2013, the following video would appear and subsequently become widely circulated on the internet due to its unsettling nature.
What the fuck?
The clip is just under a minute long, and it was given the title, "I Made a Friend on the Mountain, Wait for It." In it, a woman can be seen hiking alone in the distance, until the camera turns around to show the man filming wearing a balaclava and smiling maniacally.
What the
In the description, the OP states that this is how he likes to spend his time when he's at the peak. And more disturbingly, he writes, "I'll upload the rest of the video later." In the first couple of weeks of this video's life online, it would amass more than 17,000 views, in turn causing a great amount of concern among its viewers. What if this clip was a precursor to something awful that happened to this woman? Online sleuths would begin investigating. They would quickly figure out that the clip was recorded on Montera Mountain outside Half Moon Bay in California, and local police would start an investigation after being contacted dozens of times by internet users. It wouldn't take law enforcement long to track down the creator of this video, who goes by Gort Evans. He's a California-based mechanic who has a tendency to make quirky videos on the internet. Police would end up spending 40 minutes questioning Gort, who would actually film some of their discussion to share on social media.
Yes, I am. I'm going to put this online.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. What can I do for you today?
Well, I think you probably have some idea why we're here to talk to you.
I'm somewhat, but I'd like you to explain it.
Okay, well, somebody contacted the police department.
Yes.
They found a video on a website.
Yes, they did.
Involving a female hiker. Top of Montera Mountain.
Yes.
Sound familiar?
Yes, it sounds very familiar.
Appears to be you shooting the photo.
It probably appears to be me. Yes, it does.
Okay. Was it you?
Why would I answer that? What, is there a crime?
Well, that's one of the reasons we're here.
Really?
Because your video ends abruptly.
It does end abruptly. Did you do any research onto my online persona, my Gort Evans? Did you look at any of my other Live Leak videos?
Well, now you're asking me questions.
Well, yes, it's only fair, isn't it?
Okay, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions if you want to turn the video camera off.
I am not going to turn the camera off. Because this is what I do. I love making videos. This is hilarious to me. Hi.
I really don't.
The police would also manage to track down the woman in the video, who is thankfully okay. By coincidence, she had actually come across a recording of social media all on her own, shocked to find herself portrayed in some creepy voyeur clip. She would write a letter to the local news talking about how hiking was helping her get through her cancer treatment, but ever since seeing herself in that video, she's been avoiding that trail. She also mentions that she does remember passing by the man filming, who appeared to be hiding in a cave. He made her nervous, so she gave him a wide berth and continued her hike as usual. Gort hadn't really committed a crime, but the police, the community, and the woman in the clip all asked if he would consider removing the video, which had been causing a lot of fear surrounding public safety on the hiking trails that snake around Half Moon Bay. He refused to do so, stating in his talk with the police that everybody should have watched his other videos so they'd know that he was just joking. Gort isn't the first person to be stubborn about being creepy on the internet, and in the end, he didn't face any repercussions for his video. But what is weird about this situation is what happened after. Members of the social media site that Gort had originally posted his video to would all come to his defense, sending hate mail and even death threats to the journalists that reported on the story and the policemen that were involved in the investigation. What sort of community would so strongly come to the defense of someone who had made such an objectively creepy video? The answer to that question is that on the platform that Gort had uploaded his video to, his clip was in reality one of the most mundane pieces of media there.
Yeah.
If we were to treat this site as an iceberg, Gort would be sitting at the very top, with everything below him being progressively more and more disturbing. This platform was home to some of the most vile content on the public-facing internet throughout the 2000s and the 2010s, eventually getting shut down due to its lawless nature. This site was none other than liveleak.com. No matter how old you are, or how long you've been a citizen of the internet, chances are pretty good that you've heard of LiveLeak in some capacity. Maybe you've seen some meme about the LiveLeak logo appearing in the top left corner of a video, indicating that something really bad is about to happen. Or you've seen the LiveLeak name attached for no reason to random shock videos that have found their way onto your screen at some point in your life. No matter what the context may have been, hearing the name LiveLeak probably elicits feelings of danger and unease. But because LiveLeak hasn't existed for half a decade now, we almost forget that this wasn't just some branding for horrible shock videos. It was an actual social media platform just like the one you're using to watch this video right now. And it has a history that I've never seen told on YouTube before. The story of LiveLeak is inseparably tied to the time period when it was most popular. Nowadays, shock content isn't as centralized as it used to be. It just kind of pops up in places where people already congregate on the internet, like Reddit or Twitter. But having a place like LiveLeak act as a definitive home for shocking and disturbing videos means that this platform's story is essentially the story of all esoteric and dark media that was circulating on the internet in the 2000s and the 2010s. So if you're at all nostalgic about these time periods, you're likely going to enjoy this video. This is going to be a long one, so sit back, grab a nice snack and a drink, and let me tell you about some insane stuff from the internet's most infamous shock site. Have you ever noticed while on a road trip that all small towns and cities just kind of have the same stuff? No matter which one you're traveling through, you're always going to see the same few franchise businesses copy and pasted from town to town, with each one having the same boutique main street with the small local shops that sell handmade soap and vintage clothing, and the outskirts that always have the same stroads outlined with Boston pizzas, Canadian tires, and gas stations. It almost makes traveling a little boring with every place just kind of being the exact same, and that's exactly how the internet is nowadays. Your time online is pretty much always spent using the same few websites. Sometimes something novel like WPlace comes along and you're suddenly spending time somewhere new, but these are usually flashes in the pan, and you quickly forget about them and go back to surfing Reddit or YouTube. If the modern internet is akin to driving through small towns in modern-day Canada, the internet of the early 2000s was more like traveling through villages in the American Wild West. There were no multi-billion-dollar companies giving predictable and repetitive experiences. People would mostly spend their time surfing small handmade websites that were essentially unpoliced by any kind of authority. While internet service providers could and sometimes did block access to websites that shared shocking or cross content, this rarely happened, and the internet users of Web 1.0 were pretty much free to share whatever they wanted on their own sites they hosted and maintained themselves. And believe me, they absolutely took advantage of this truly unrestrained free speech. In the year 2000, a mysterious team supposedly based in the Netherlands would launch a site called ogreish.com. The goal of their platform was to host and share shocking video content, such as clips of car accidents, war footage, and videos of people getting hurt or killed in various ways. This wasn't a new idea. Shock sites were a dime a dozen in this era of the internet, but there was something special that set Ogrish apart from the rest. While Ogrish may have started out like its peers, posting whatever shock content they could just for the sake of it, they eventually would reframe the mission of the site to be more oriented around current events. Instead of just sharing random clips of people dying for no real purpose, Ogrish would instead begin to share these videos with some context and sometimes even a story attached to them. They wouldn't be reposting the same 15-year-old Faces of Death shock videos, they would start to focus on posting fresh content that was relevant to the modern day. The creators would write a script that would scan extremist Islamic web pages to alert them if any new media was found. They would begin hiring people to hunt down the latest pieces of shock media attached to current events happening around the world. This rebranding as a sort of alternative news source skyrocketed Ogrish's notoriety, also landing them in a lot of hot water. In 2002, Ogrish would be investigated by the FBI after being the first site on the internet to share the video depicting the execution of American journalist Daniel Pearl at the hands of jihadists. The ACLU would actually come to Ogrish's defense here, and the FBI ultimately halted the investigation without any charges being laid. Ogrish hadn't committed any crimes. They legally obtained their footage, often paying to license it. They were merely sharing the horrible things others did, but they weren't facilitating those crimes in any way. Still, Ogrish would only face more scrutiny the bigger it got. In 2005, the site would almost be completely blocked in several European countries due to a Tier 1 network ban. Despite this, Ogrish would still continue to grow, but just 1 year later, they would hit a ceiling of sorts. The hardware they're using to run the site had reached its limit and couldn't keep up with the increasing bandwidth demands. And on top of that, the curators finding content for the site weren't able to find videos fast enough to keep their ever-growing user base happy with fresh content. This slow rollout of new stuff to see wasn't much of a problem before, but ever since the advent of a new rival platform called YouTube, it was becoming a growing concern. On YouTube, you didn't have to wait for the site's administrators to find new stuff. Users could put up their own videos, making for an almost endless selection of clips to watch. YouTube might not have been meant for sharing shock videos, but they did find their way there sometimes, and regardless, they were still stealing attention away from Ogrish users, which was becoming more and more of a problem as time went on. These issues would eventually be the end of Ogrish, but the team behind the site would partner with another team in the UK to create a new platform from its ashes. On October 31st, 2006, users who typed ogrish.com into their web browsers were redirected to a new site called LiveLeak. This platform looked much more clean and corporate than Ogrish, appearing not too different from other normal video hosting sites from the same era. The mission wasn't different from before. This was still very much a place to see shocking videos of the horrible things happening around the world, but the difference with LiveLeak was that users could upload their own shock videos to the site, which would sit alongside the curated content shared by the platform's administrators. When Ogrish had transformed into LiveLeak, it was still a pretty niche site on the internet just by nature of being a shock site, which is a sort of place that's destined to be outside the mainstream. But surprisingly enough, LiveLeak would indeed become a key part of the mainstream mere months after launching. At the very end of 2006, former President of Iraq Saddam Hussein was executed after being convicted of crimes against humanity. While the Iraq government shared an official video depicting the moments leading up to his execution but not actually showing the act itself, one of the guards in the room happened to film the hanging on his flip phone. He would then share it on the internet. It's unclear where this video was originally posted, but in any event, it eventually found its way onto LiveLeak, which is how the world at large saw how Saddam Hussein got killed. LiveLeak would blow up after the Saddam video was shared on it, with British Prime Minister Tony Blair directly mentioning the site in his statement on the event. With YouTube beginning to enforce their newly established community guidelines at the time, LiveLeak instantly cemented itself as a risque counterpart to that platform. If it wasn't allowed on YouTube, chances are it would find its way onto LiveLeak. When I first went on LiveLeak in the late 2000s, it had a reputation for being the dangerous version of YouTube, at least among us kids. It was the sort of site your friends would show you after turning off all the lights at midnight during a sleepover. It was where I first saw gore, and it was how I initially learned about the awful things people do when they're fighting a war. Saddam Hussein's execution was a pretty big indicator of what was to come on LiveLeak. The first few years of the site mainly centered around the Iraq War. This was the first time in history combat footage could be instantly seen by the citizens of the country fighting it. Before LiveLeak, raw images and videos of war were hard to come across. News companies often left out the more gruesome details, and with official legacy media being your only information source, you end up a little shielded from the morbid realities of fighting a war. This wasn't because legacy media wanted to shelter their viewers from more shocking content, it was also a shortcoming of the information networks that facilitated the mainstream news at the time. LiveLeak changed this in a big way. Not only could the people on the ground in the war share their experiences directly with others on LiveLeak, but legacy media would also use the platform to run more negative stories about the Iraq War using media they found on the site. Studies show that an average person's support for a war their country is fighting is lessened when they're shown graphic clips of said war, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the decline in support for the Iraq War in particular just so happened to coincide with LiveLeak's explosion in popularity. The Iraq War would end in 2011 partially due to declining support for American citizens, but LiveLeak would continue to thrive over the following decade. Anytime anything graphic happened that the news wouldn't show you, people would flock to LiveLeak to see it completely uncut and uncensored. Like I said earlier, the history of LiveLeak is a history of all shocking media that was being circulated at the time of its popularity. Instead of just showing the entire morbid history of the previous decade, we're going to talk about a few key LiveLeak sagas. There's no country quite as mysterious to outsiders as North Korea. The two things the DPRK is famous for as a nation is how much control their totalitarian authoritarian government exerts over their people, and also their state ideology called Juche, which advocates for total self-reliance as a country. Juche has led to North Korea becoming almost completely isolated from the outside world, with the only real historical exception being the humanitarian aid the country would continually receive as a result of constant food shortages. But in the latter half of the 20th century, North Korea would begin experimenting with international tourism. They would start by creating programs aimed towards South Koreans in the 90s and 2000s, but beginning in the late 2000s, they would expand their programs to target English-speaking Westerners. This resulted in a lot of the travel documentaries and YouTube videos you've probably seen about North Korea, like Vice's fantastic Inside North Korea series they made all the way back in 2008. All of this media more or less follows the same format. Westerners will film their incredibly strict guided tours they're thrust into in the DPRK, and the audience only gets to see the sanitized version of North Korea the state wants them to see. The creators on these tours usually aren't allowed to speak with normal North Korean citizens. The only people they're allowed to talk to are their tour guides and the various people they're meant to encounter on these tours, who all end up speaking as if they're reading off a script. These videos will always depict some effort on behalf of the creator to try to film the real side of North Korea that everyone wants to see. But tourists aren't allowed to move freely inside the country, so all this usually amounts to are the mundane countryside scenes filmed from the windows of a bus all these YouTubers seem to be able to capture. Maybe they'll manage to sneakily stop a passerby without the guys noticing and manage to ask them a couple questions, but this still never amounts to much. On LiveLeak in 2010, however, you could find a much more real look into the country. This video, seemingly filmed on a flip phone, depicts an interview with a homeless woman in rural North Korea. She appears incredibly thin and emaciated, giving her the appearance of somebody much younger than her real age of 23 years old. The clip only lasts for 36 seconds, and in that brief span of time, the woman divulges some disturbing details about her life, like the fact that she doesn't have anything to eat, and that her parents are both dead. Since LiveLeak hasn't existed for 5 years now, I found this clip on Reddit, with only the infamous LiveLeak watermark in the top left corner to tell me where it originally came from. There are several uploads of this video floating around different subreddits, with each one mentioning that it was filmed by a North Korean journalist, and also that the woman in the video was later found dead in a cornfield. This video is a stark contrast to the sanitized North Korean tourism videos filmed by Westerners from the same time period. It really renders their efforts to capture the quote-unquote real North Korea completely invalid. This isn't a brief glimpse of some guy in a field filmed from a bus window. This is the real thing. But how did this clip even come to be? This obviously wasn't recorded by a tourist, this was captured by somebody who had real access to the country. The cameraman in this video, while their voice is purposely altered to hide their identity, is speaking Korean, And considering the woman isn't surprised to see him, we can assume he probably is Korean himself. I wanted to get to the bottom of where this video came from, and while normally on this channel that process can be time consuming, this case was actually very easy. Merely googling North Korean homeless woman brought me to the source of this video. This clip was the result of a project called Rimjin Gang, News from Inside North Korea. Started in 2007 by a group of Japanese and Korean journalists, Rimjin Gang is an undercover journalism operation that works with North Korean operatives to smuggle footage taken inside the country. The journalists traveled to the Chinese border and made contact with willing citizens from North Korea who were then given hidden cameras to film their surroundings. The footage then gets smuggled out of the country into China on hidden USB sticks and SD cards, where the Japanese and South Korean journalists who receive it do some editing to protect the identity of their sources and to also add some exposition to explain what's happening. If you're like me and you went through a phase of watching all these North Korean travel vlogs back in the day, you should really check out these Rimjin Gang videos. They have a playlist now on YouTube with all the English versions of their videos, and they're unquestionably the most interesting footage I've seen come out of North Korea. It really feels like you're seeing the actual country for the first time. The one thing that really strikes me is that no matter when the footage was filmed, life for these people seems to be more or less the same. If you were to take a video from the 90s and compare it to one taken in the 2010s in basically any other country, you would notice many differences, whether it's the fashion, the home decor, or the technology. But in North Korea, a video taken in 2011 seems to depict mostly the exact same things seen in a video from 1998. It seems like time just stopped at one point, and nothing since then has changed. Filming these videos is a huge risk for these undercover journalists. The DPRK has been known to be extremely heavy-handed when punishing people who try to leak or smuggle anything out of the country, like that American college student who stole a propaganda poster from his hotel and was thrown in prison for a year and a half because of it, ultimately dying after being released to the USA in a vegetative state. Messing with the North Korean government while in the country puts you in extreme danger, and our next live leak video shows what can happen to you if you get caught.
Welcome back. That's pretty fucked up. Nah, I'm almost scared of this shit.
By surviving, you've triggered a new game. The heads of the council family.
In this video, which I unfortunately can't show you almost any of due to its graphic nature, we see two interrogations performed by North Korean state police. The first is with a North Korean woman who is supposedly accused of crossing the border and sleeping with a Chinese man. The officer is quite physical, shoving the woman around. The clip is very hard to watch, especially with the mysterious red stain on the back wall. The second interrogation is with a Chinese man who supposedly ripped a picture of Kim Jong-il, the former head of the DPRK. In this one, the victim is blindfolded and hit several times with a stick. Above him hangs a picture of Kim Jong-il and the leader before him, Kim Il-sung. The officer forces him to bow over and over again to these photos, occasionally hitting him when he's not bowing well enough. This video was originally uploaded to LiveLeak in late 2012, simply titled, Leak Footage of North Korean Interrogation Room. The description only really summarizes the exposition already offered by the video, and there isn't much more information to be gathered on this page. Doing an image back search reveals several articles written about these clips, but again, they only serve to relay the information already contained in the video itself, and there's nothing new to learn here. There's several re-uploads on various sites, but they're all taken right from this LiveLeak page, with the infamous watermark fully intact in each of them. The only information I could find regarding the potential origins of this clip were comments on this fairly popular YouTube re-upload, which garnered more than 200,000 views. Two comments here mention that this video was leaked by North Korean state security agents that defected and sold the footage to a broker. These are just unverified YouTube comments, so you should obviously take that with a grain of salt. Through a bit more research involving a certain website based around an infamous band subreddit, I was able to track down two older uploads for the two clips in these videos, which both date back to 2011. That's where I'm drawing the line with this one though, as these earlier versions both come from websites that I'm not even going to attempt to look into. Trust me, there are places on the internet that aren't worth your curiosity. Based on that, I would say that these videos have likely both been floating around the darker and seedier parts of the internet for who knows how long, and they just eventually found their way into LiveLeak, which allowed them to reach a more general audience. I know I keep saying it, but the contrast between the sanitized version of the North Korea the DPRK wants you to see and the actual North Korea is really something. The supposed good version of North Korea is incredibly strange and goofy at best, and downright unsettling at worst. And nothing quite emphasizes that weirdness as much as this next video. This is a 2013 propaganda video made by the DPRK and uploaded to the internet specifically for outsiders to see. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but to summarize it, it describes a dream that I guess the creator of this video had. They dreamt about flying into space on a North Korean rocket. They see such beautiful scenes outside the window, like the gorgeous hues of space and that perfect green earth, which they take many pictures of. After zooming in a bit, they see an even prettier sight, a fully unified Korean state, under the DPRK banner of course. This scene was so amazing it made the dreamer cry, but there was something dark looming on the horizon. At the corner of his eye, he noticed a dark smoke rising in the USA. After looking harder, it would seem that America is burning to the ground. No matter though, as the USA is the land of authority, which is probably just a mistranslation, but kind of funny how it reads in the context of this video. The clip ends off with the narrator telling the audience that his dream will come true, and it will be beautiful. It's certainly something to see North Korea call another country authoritarian and tyrannical, but what's more interesting about this video is that depiction of the USA. It's out of place. Everything else in this video is really simple computer animation, but then you have this detailed destruction of an American city done in a completely different style. Where did it come from? As several news sites who reported on this state, this official North Korean propaganda video uses a scene from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. How the creators of this clip came across that Call of Duty cutscene, I have no idea. It's possible they might have just searched American City being destroyed video on the internet and they just chose the first result they found, but I do like the idea of some DPRK official playing a pirated copy of Modern Warfare 3 and recording with fraps or something. Obviously Activision wasn't all that pleased with their intellectual property appearing in a propaganda video made by an actual enemy nation in the United States, so they DMCA'd the YouTube video and it was taken down. LiveLeak though didn't have a DMCA system, and this video continued to live its life on that platform, with the LiveLeak version even having English subtitles. This story really emphasizes the whole mission behind LiveLeak, to have an alternate place to see relevant but risque media that bigger platforms are too strict to host. This has led to people getting important information they might not have otherwise gotten, like the 2011 urination incident in Afghanistan. Yeah, that's really what it's called. This is a video of US Marines relieving themselves on the lifeless bodies of Taliban fighters. This clip caused an international uproar, one that might never have happened if it wasn't posted to LiveLeak. As much as something like LiveLeak can't be a public good though, it can also be used in the wrong way. This North Korean propaganda video, for example. Is this really a significant piece of media? Is it important for a platform like LiveLeak to host propaganda made by a totalitarian state that regularly does horrible things to their own people? You could argue that all media is important and deserves to be able to be seen, but it would be unreasonable to say that there isn't a line somewhere. And on LiveLeak, this next organization we're going to talk about crossed it. By the time the USA withdrew from Iraq in 2011, the country was left in shambles after a decade of war. As the government attempted to rebuild the country, their policies discriminating against Sunni Muslims led to large civil unrest in the country. A small group began to go around the different Iraqi prisons to free hardline militants who would then be recruited into their organization. This group rapidly expanded and began to take over territory in Iraq, much like a mafia, extorting the local population for money and resources. They began to move into neighboring Syria, capturing even more land in the process. Eventually, they would control a huge territory larger than many of their neighboring countries, gaining an immense amount of power for what had been a small militant group only a couple years prior. They would set their sights even further though. They didn't just want to take over the Arab world, they wanted to take over huge parts of Africa, Asia, and Europe. And to achieve this, they would start to use the internet as a tool to spread fear-soaked propaganda, ensuring that everyone in the West knew the name ISIS. It goes without saying that ISIS was and is a terrorist group. They use fear as a method for gaining power and notoriety. In the past, this was usually done by planning out sensational attacks that would grab the public's attention in a big way, hijacking established communication networks like TV, magazines, and newspapers to advance the group's message. ISIS used to do and still does attacks like this, but in the early 2010s, they found a different and more convenient way to spread fear. Instead of planning out some attack on a city center in some European country which required a ton of logistical planning, ISIS instead found that they could achieve a similar effect on the public by making slick high production value propaganda videos. They didn't need to do any covert operation in a faraway country, they could just film the horrible things they were already doing at home and post them on the internet. These clips would be produced using expensive equipment, and for the first few seconds they might even look like something taken from a documentary in the Middle East. That is until the people in them start dying. ISIS would start off posting these videos to Twitter and YouTube, but after being banned from both of those sites, they would swiftly move over to LiveLeak, joining North Korea and using the platform to spread violent propaganda. These clips would become a staple on the site. After all, it's pretty rare to see such high production value gore. All of these videos more or less follow the same format. They show ISIS members talking for a few seconds, and then they start killing people. I can't even show you a single uncensored frame from these videos because of how serious YouTube is about keeping these clips off of their site. But needless to say, don't go looking these up, they're truly vile pieces of media. LiveLeak went from being a site that people could use to expose the evil things they saw other people doing, to a site that evil people used to show off the evil things they themselves were doing. And you know what happened? LiveLeak drew a line in the sand. They had had enough. In 2014, they banned all ISIS content from their site, and their moderation team would start sifting through the platform's library on a regular basis to flag and remove re-uploads of ISIS propaganda. This wasn't the first time LiveLeak had enforced a strict content policy. In 2008, they had removed the radical Dutch short movie Fitna from their platform, but this was an isolated incident which was mostly due to the site's administrators receiving credible death threats. The ISIS ban, though, was a stark clarification of the site's mission. LiveLeak was a platform for people to expose the world's evils and morbid realities, not a propaganda amplifier. While I'm sure many of you would agree with this decision, myself included, it would surprisingly foreshadow the site's end 7 years later. Before we get to that though, I feel like while we've gone over a few of the bigger LiveLeak topics, I still haven't given you guys a good idea of the real experience of using LiveLeak back in the day. It wasn't all Iraq war footage and ISIS videos. There are a ton of smaller niches on LiveLeak that, while mostly disconnected from each other, are all still key to the site's identity. So we're going to call this following section, the front page of LiveLeak. It's going to be a rapid fire round going through a bunch of smaller LiveLeak topics that don't constitute their own section in this video, but are still important and interesting nonetheless. In 1786, Father Flores Alatorre of Rome would dig up the mummified corpse of a young woman. She had been a martyr who had died at an unverified point of time in the past for her Catholic beliefs. He would then send this body over to his brother in Mexico who had opened a school for girls in the city of Guadalajara. It would be passed around various Catholic institutions in Mexico over the next 200 years, eventually making its way to the Guadalajara Cathedral in 1925, where it's been displayed for churchgoers to look at ever since. In summer 2012, a tourist visiting the cathedral would film the body of the martyr using his cell phone. This was not unusual. There are tons of videos online depicting the corpse on display, but unbeknownst to the person filming this time, they would capture something very strange. Like I said, the person filming this supposedly didn't notice what they had captured until they reviewed the footage when they got home, prompting them to upload it to LiveLeak. While the original LiveLeak page has been lost with the site's deletion, a 2014 re-upload of the clip has garnered 2.4 million views on YouTube. You guys know me, I'm obviously going to assume this is fake, but I must say that this is really well done. I honestly can't spot many signs of editing, except for the fact that maybe the blur that fades in right as the corpse begins opening its eyes may be artificial and put there to cover up some sloppy animation, which I suppose could be the case for all the lost focus that occurs frequently in this video, but what do you guys think? Is this real? It's definitely one of the more believable looking supernatural things that have been caught on camera. This case would be reported on many times throughout the years by mainstream English language news, but there's never been any clarification on the clip's authenticity, and thus it still remains a mystery to this day. You've likely heard of this one, but in 2016, users on many social media platforms, including LiveLeak, would begin posting videos of clowns wielding knives that were supposedly terrorizing various communities in English-speaking countries. These clowns are supposedly attacking people and attempting to lure children for God knows what purposes. People would theorize that there was some dark organized effort behind these clown appearances, but in reality, it was just a bizarre manifestation of a meme. An idea that spreads from person to person through a communication network, in this case the internet. These clowns weren't actually doing anything sinister, they were just trying to scare people to attract attention on social media. That didn't mean this craze didn't result in wide-reaching consequences, however. In 2016, 12 clown-related arrests were made, and even one death had occurred as a result of a stabbing prompted by a creepy clown appearance. This hoax infected public consciousness so much that professional clowns began to lose business due to shifting attitudes towards their characters, and McDonald's even began shelving their longtime mascot Ronald McDonald for the same reason, and Halloween stores all throughout the Anglosphere would remove clown costumes from their shelves. It's hard to point to a single origin for this trend, but in all likelihood, it started with one person coming up with the idea and gaining notoriety for it, with all the others following suit in chase of the clout. The whole trend peaked at Halloween when rumors of some sort of clown purge began going around, but nothing came of this and the clown sightings more or less fizzled out after that. In Soviet Russia, red light means go. Maybe also in post-Soviet Russia as well. Due to a high rate of insurance fraud in the country, the people of Russia began using dashcams much more frequently than other nations beginning in the late 2000s. With so many of Russian roads being continually filmed on a regular basis, almost every weird thing that happened was caught on camera, and they would make their way into live leak. All manners of accidents, road rages, and just outright bizarre things would be caught on camera, like this clip which was posted to live leak in 2013.
Whoa.
This video, which was filmed in the Siberian city of Chelyabinsk, shows the largest meteor Earth has gotten in more than 100 years, flying through the sky and then burning up in the atmosphere, at one point burning even brighter than the sun. While it might seem like from this clip that not much happened on the ground because of this earthbound foreign object, that wasn't the case. When the meteor ultimately exploded, it released more energy than a nuclear bomb. While the atmosphere absorbed most of the shockwave, it did reach the ground somewhat, causing widespread destruction, leading to 7,200 damaged buildings and almost 1,500 hospitalizations. With dashcams being so popular in Russia, there were actually several instances of this event being caught on camera from the street. As dashcams became more ubiquitous outside Russia, there wouldn't be such a heavy focus on Russian dashcam footage in particular, but for many years in the 2010s, a very large chunk of dashcam footage floating around LiveLeak and other platforms specifically came out of Russia. As the world at large became more and more connected via the internet in the late 2000s and the early 2010s, CCTV footage showing accidents in some of the many factories that exist in China would begin circulating online. While initially these clips are mostly passed around various shock sites, the establishment of LiveLeak in 2006 would offer a place for users to share all the clips they've collected of Chinese factory workers getting hurt in spectacular ways. These videos would mostly be ripped from Chinese social media, and they would depict workers getting caught in machines, often getting crushed, knocked around, or sometimes literally being torn apart. Factories would eventually start making animated versions of some of these clips to use as training material for new hires. While in the 2010s, Chinese workplace accidents may have been one of the largest niches on LiveLeak, the CCP would begin to enforce stricter content policies on Chinese social media, leading to a vast reduction in new clips finding their way online, which leaves this weird genre of media as a relic from a bygone era. Just like LiveLeak itself. In 2019, the infamous Christchurch shooting occurred in New Zealand. It had been the first massacre of its kind to be live streamed, and as such, re-uploads of the chilling video would make its way onto just about every platform, including LiveLeak. Considering the shooter specifically chose to livestream his horrible act to increase the amount of notoriety he would gain from the crime, nation-states around the world began to take action to pressure the social media platforms of the time to remove the footage. YouTube would have immense trouble trying to keep the video off of their site, with 10 re-uploads being made every time one was taken down. They would eventually implement some extremely complicated automated systems to detect the visuals and audio of the footage through all the editing it would be put through by different users and remove them systematically. But even this didn't fully solve the problem, as users would still manage to find ways to bypass the system. If a multi-billion-dollar website like YouTube couldn't fully remove the Christchurch footage off of their platform, how do you think the vastly smaller LiveLeak fared? After all, their site was set up with the explicit purpose to share footage like this, which led to a large amount of users constantly re-uploading the video to the platform. LiveLeak would focus their efforts on manual moderation, but this didn't prove to be enough. The platform would come under heavy scrutiny, with Australia even fully blocking the site in 2020. That same year, LiveLeak removed the ability for users to log into the platform, and would remove many of the site's features like recommendations, meaning the only thing you could really do on LiveLeak now was watch videos that you already had the direct URL to. This was just the beginning of the end, because in 2021, LiveLeak would shut down for good, with the URL redirecting to another new platform, this one called Item Fix. The administrators would post a letter explaining the transition. They mentioned that they had already achieved all they could with LiveLeak, and that they wanted to try something new. Item Fix is a safe-for-work video hosting site that's built around preparing videos to be shared on other social media platforms. You can take an existing video and add some minor tweaking to it with a sort of crude online video editor. It almost reminds me of meme generator websites from the early 2010s. While interesting, I do think that Item Fix doesn't really have a solid place in the modern internet. Netizens nowadays have multiple convenient ways to manipulate and remix videos they come across on social media, and I can't help but to wonder how long this iteration of this long-lasting and constantly transforming social media brand will last. The death of LiveLeak occurred because of a similar issue. It just didn't really have a place anymore in the modern internet. It may have been a beneficial tool to have 15 or 20 years ago, but nowadays, people have much easier ways to access footage of the various evils and tragedies that befall our world. The recent shooting of Charlie Kirk illustrates this point perfectly. Just about everyone I know has already seen that video, and they didn't need a platform like LiveLeak that's solely dedicated to shock material to find it. That's about it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Before we go, I do want to tell you guys that this week marks the 5-year anniversary of the last serious album of music I put out. It's called Mer Bleu, and it's the final album I made with my band Woodlake before we broke up. I always get a lot of comments asking about the music I use in my videos, so I figured I'd share a bit more of it with you today. If you're into shoegaze, slacker rock, or folk music, you might enjoy it. I'll link it down below. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.
Alright, well, that's the end of today, and that's the end of the day, and I'm going to be ending the stream. Hope all of you have a wonderful night. Hope you take care, and I hope you guys stay safe. Have a great day. Be easy.